It's crazy though, right? You can just like take clothes off in a creative way with some gnomes and make 100,000.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot more to it than that, but yeah.
What was it? What's the
I mean,
different
it's
process?
marketing. Like, so with my free cams, I was unusual in that I decided to do outside of the website marketing. I would like post on Reddit, right?
Mhm.
This was very unusual at the time, but like OnlyFans is structured such that they have almost no internal discovery whatsoever. So if you want people to come to your page, you have to go out onto external websites and advertise for yourself
Okay.
directly. Very different model. And so this is something I had already been doing and already had practice in. And so I think I was like already quite advanced. Like I already had an account on Reddit that was like 7 years old at the time. Tons of like karma that means I could post in subreddits. I'd already been on Twitter for years, like posting actively. So I already had like presences on all these other platforms that really
So
helped with the conversion.
Reddit and Twitter,
Reddit, Twitter, FetLife, Instagram, TikTok.
and you were still advertising creatively. So like
Yeah.
there's like sexuality, but there's also like creative sexuality
Yeah.
and ideas too.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
one of the really popular ones was I like molested myself as a mime using a one arm through a jacket, and so the jacket looked like it was the jacket
I'm
looked like
sorry.
it was alive, and that one did really well.
Did you like brainstorm with somebody? And like, I recently got to hang out with Mr. Beast and
Mm.
sit on a session of brainstorming different ideas.
Hmm.
I just envision you with like a team brainstorming. All right, how about we try the mime and the molesting thing? I don't know, it's too edgy.
I wish. I think the team would have been a lot more fun. But no, it's just me. Like I had an apartment that looked like kind of like this, You just sit alone and you're like, well, that would be a good idea. And I'd seen you just collect ideas over time, right? Like I'd seen somebody doing a version of the like this animated hand act like when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I just always stuck in my head. And like one day I was like, I bet I could do that. And then when I was trying to think of ideas to do as a sex worker, I was like, why don't I just try that? And then it turned out to be like a really like quite a viral hit.
Is there stuff like you mentioned too edgy? Like Mr. Beast tries to keep it PG.
Yeah.
Do you try to keep it PG-13?
Well, with the sex advertising stuff, I mean, it's sex advertising, so it's obviously not PG-13.
I don't know these ratings. What is
It's
even
not
beyond that? R?
family friendly. It is X. Like the one that I'm describing to you at some point, like you can see my boob. So
As a boob is X.
a boob is, I
I
guess.
thought R.
Maybe
I
it
think
is
you can
R.
show a boob in PG-13.
Yeah, maybe X is like if you got some sort of rhythmic motion going on
Maybe that sound, but the rhythmic
with the
motion
sound.
not. You can have one or the other, but you can't have both. You have both.
That's when we hit the X. Yeah.
Okay.
So like, definitely not family. I mean, with the sex advertising stuff, like guys like vanilla shit. Guys want basic hot girl. You can do something like kind of sexy and creative, like getting abducted by gnomes or like the self molestation, right? But those are still pretty within the normal boundaries.
What do you mean, guys like vanilla stuff?
I mean, most guys like vanilla stuff.
What's vanilla stuff?
Like
See,
hot
we'll
girl
talk
being
about
horny.
fetishes. I think my Overton window on what is vanilla is expanding quickly after following your work. But yeah, what is
I actually have done a lot of studies on what is vanilla. Like
Yeah.
I've done a couple different surveys where I ask people like how taboo is this thing, and I have like a rating from least to most
By
taboo.
the way, I don't appreciate the beauty of vanilla ice cream.
You don't? It is really good though.
You eat vanilla ice cream?
I eat vanilla ice cream. Yeah.
I think there's just so many more options. It's like the absence of creativity.
I mean, if you put in like some chocolate chips or something.
Yeah, they already made it more interesting. It's a start. Okay, so what's vanilla? What and why do guys like vanilla? So hot girl doing hot girl things? What, like undressing and then having sex?
The thing that I found was most successful were frames where the man was framed as passive and the woman is active. Or like, for example, like, oh, we got assigned to the same bunk at the breeding school or something. Or like,
Yeah.
oh, we're the last people on Earth. Right.
Yeah.
Or like, oh no, I desperately need somebody to like cure me with this disease and I need semen. So it's like
Yes.
in any scenario where the guy is just like finds himself such that the woman like desperately needs him for some reason and he doesn't have to do much. That is like typically one of the much more successful things. Like guys like women falling into their lap.
What about the power dynamic?
So guys are less into power dynamics than women are. And you can do power dynamics as long as it's like handed to them. Some guys are like very dominant and like prefer like having to work, but this is the minority. Like if you're trying to make 100K in a month and you're trying to appeal to the widest group
Mhm.
of people, the most effective advertising. You're not going to be making the most money by being like particularly submissive.
So on the camming side, that's your unlike escorting or just personal relationships. You're trying to you have an audience. You have like a theater full of people.
Like with live camming?
Yeah, with live camming.
Yeah, it's like a live theater.
Does that freak you out? There's just a bunch of people watching.
I mean, how do you feel right now?
I don't know they're watching because it's not live.
Yeah, that's true. It's not live.
So
But like
they're
it might
not
as well
watching.
be. Like they could be watching.
I feel like there's just the two of us. I don't.
Okay.
And there's like I feel sometimes I imagine there's a third person.
Like God?
Usually, no, not God. Just I usually imagine either a guy or girl or a couple just sitting there for some reason, like usually on the beach and usually high, or on some kind of like on mushrooms, just like listening passively, just kind of looking at the sunset. That's what I imagine.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
I think that's useful. Like when I write my blog posts, sometimes I do terribly, but it's the most effective when I imagine one person that I'm writing to try to explain. And like having a high couple watching the sunset is maybe really lovely as a calibration.
I have to say, it is pretty romantic because I've gotten a chance to meet couples that listen to podcasts together.
Mm.
I don't know why that seems like intensely romantic to me because you're not watching TV together, you're listening to a thing. I mean, I guess sometimes they watch it, but like you're listening to ideas together.
Mm.
I don't know. It seems
It's like you're going through the same kind of thought process
yeah,
at the same
yeah.
time.
That's a really beautiful way to put it. So it's like you're melding. Your thinking is following the same line. Somehow podcasts do that more than movies. I think movies give you a lot more freedom to think about stuff.
Mm.
I feel like your thoughts are aligned, and like especially if the podcast is good, like if it's listening to like a Dan Carlin podcast like about history, that you're like on a journey together.
Mm.
There's an intimacy to that.